Bonjour les amis, do you want to go to Paris and immerse yourself in the language and the culture, but you feel that you are a beginner? Words are not coming to you. You feel that your pronunciation is terrible, and maybe also you don't find someone to practice with before you go. I'm Llyane Stanfield, and you are watching French Immersion for Beginners, where I'm sharing with you techniques that nobody else is sharing of the way you can learn French, so that even if you are a beginner, you can still make conversation, you can still immerse, go on an immersion retreat. And if you'd like to know more about my immersion retreat, please click on the link in the description of this video. Through that link, you are coming on the waiting list for the immersion retreat. And my immersion retreats are one-on-one. And also, you will have unlimited lifetime access to the playlist of these 8 techniques that I'm sharing with you, which are the techniques that help people who went through French school, even BA or PhD. They are even teaching French. And once they know these techniques, they are able to start making conversation, being confident in using the language they already know. If you are a beginner, don't feel inhibited by that, because if you start with these techniques, you are going to be able to apply it right away. In my immersion, in my intensive program, I use these techniques for beginners, people who start from zero. And by the 4th lesson, we already make conversation. So you are in the right place. Don't worry about things not working out, because they do, and you'll see it for yourself. So these videos don't stay on Facebook, they expire. If you would like me to have to send you the playlist of all the 8 videos and techniques, please click on the link in the description of this video and let me know that you'd like to have the list of the playlist with all the videos and all the techniques. So today is a technique that is used in performing arts and for performers. So that includes artists, virtuosos, for people who they play instruments, people in sports, anybody who is performing. This technique is really used in the hotbeds of highly performing professionals, and I'm sharing it with you right now. So why am I talking about music, playing an instrument, sports? What does that have to do with a language, with French? Well, learning French, it doesn't work. Everybody's learning, and you are watching this video right now. Learning French and speaking French are 2 almost completely different skills. They actually are. Learning French is in your left brain, and in your left brain you acquire information, you organize the information, you memorize the information, the words, the grammar, rules. Even if you know the rules of pronunciation, in the left brain is where they stay, or they are assimilated. In order for us to use a foreign language, French in this case, the language needs to migrate in the right brain. How does that do it? How does that happen? Well, that happens through practice. So this is the reason I'm saying that you shouldn't learn French. Thank you so much for the hearts. Thank you. You have no idea how much I love them. You should not learn the language, but you should practice it, because people who learn it end up teaching it, yes, end up understanding it and really, knowing, reading, sure, but not making conversation, which is what language is for. So when we speak a foreign language, French in our case, we become an instrument. So we are using someone else's words, which is the vocabulary, the grammar, that are all in the left hemisphere of the brain, and express ourselves through them. So we're trying to express ourselves through them. When we express ourselves, typically we express emotions. And English is not my mother tongue, and I know every single time I'm very emotional, I lose it. I lose my vocabulary, I lose my accent or my pronunciation, my proper pronunciation, clarity is just gone. And so this is what I am helping you do. Expressing yourself through French means to manage the language while you go through a set of emotions. And when we speak about anything, we emote. And so the moment we emote, we start forgetting the words, forgetting the rules. Finish the conversation at the end, you're saying, Jesus, but I knew how to do this. I knew that word in class, or when I learned at home, I really, really knew it. How come it always appears when I make conversation? Well, it is because it's a huge difference between reading a poem and saying a poem with your soul, with your heart. And that's pretty much what's the difference between what the difference is between learning French and speaking or making the conversation, being you while using someone else's words, which are, the French words. So going back now to the technique, it is called deep practice. A very good example of this, and actually in a nutshell, deep practice means practicing at such a slow pace that the brain really is able, can have that bandwidth for new information to assimilate it, to see it, and learning with a much bigger chance of memorizing it or knowing it, of actually moving the information in a long-term memory, because this is what we want. We don't want to just imitate someone. Oh yeah, I can imitate you. I can say some words in French. Now I can speak French. It really doesn't work this way, and you know very well that's what happens in school. You can imitate your teacher, but then go home, you forgot most of it. Deep practice is when you practice at such a slow pace that the brain is like zooming into an image. You see the pixels. When you zoom out, you have a crisp, clear image. So the example of the book that I recommend that you read so that you understand this technique is called The Talent Code, and is written by Daniel Coyle. And he visited hundreds of hotbeds of highly performant professionals. And this technique is used everywhere. And the most intuitive example that he gives in the book, and I'm going to give it to you to understand this practice, is, for instance, for someone who's playing the violin, if you want to deep practice, you have to practice, say for instance, Happy Birthday song. You have to practice so slowly that someone who passes by your window doesn't realize that is a happy birthday song. That is how slowly you need to do it. What this technique does, I explained to you with the zooming in the pixels and the zoom out, is clarity. The brain actually gets every single detail of what needs to see, memorize, and doing this slow practice actually helps you memorize 10 times better. You may notice, if English is your mother tongue, you may notice how much slower I speak English. And this is the reason why. Because I learned to my pronunciation in English, I learned it using deep practice. And so if a certain sound doesn't want to come quite clearly, I know to slow down and to make it clear so that you understand what I'm saying. Because it doesn't everything boils down to clarity. When we are clear in our communication, we get to paint a picture in someone's mind. And so our brain is taken by story. That's why story is used in everything, marketing, teaching, in everything. Story is the one thing that the brain gets the best and it gets hooked by. And so when we speak clearly, we end up painting that picture in someone else's mind, so then they don't quite make any more effort to understand what we're saying. Also, they don't focus on how we're speaking anymore. They are focusing on the story because they start to get it. So do not shy away from slowing down. I'm making pauses, and I know that you also need to process the information that I'm giving to you. So I know that these pauses are actually productive in our communication. Don't shy away from slowing down, because slowing down and deep practice will get you speak French confidently 10 times faster than anybody who has a PhD. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please go to the link in the description of this video if you are interested in the Immersion retreat. And if not yet, then go and check out the intensive program, where I am showing and I'm guiding everybody, and you, if you are going to choose to register for the intensive program, I'm guiding you to speak confidently, even if you are a beginner, using all these techniques. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.